Here for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. Cam, sum the whole thing up somehow in 30 seconds.
The USA have won. They tied, but they won. A remarkable result. The MLC boys doing it for business in Dallas. 159 played 159. Saurav Netravalkar, a wonderful left-arm swing bowler, bowling beautifully in the power up top with Kenjige. Then it comes to the batting. You feel like if the USA are going to do it, they're going to cruise it. It's not going to be a case of they nip it by a wicket at the end. They look like they're cruising home. Andries House and Monank Patel batting beautifully, then both fall in the space of 2 overs, and they creep there, they're not getting there. 5 needed to win off 1 ball. Nitesh Kumar, who at that point is on about 10 off 13, squeezes one a full toss over mid-off. It's a super over. The super over goes terribly. I know this was meant to be 30 seconds, but it's too difficult. Mohammad Amir bowls a million wide. It was fantastic, Adam. Saurav Netravalkar then comes back in, has 20 to defend, does it successfully, and that was a very succinct description of what's just happened.
That's okay. When you've got an extra 2 overs to describe, it gives you another sort of 45 seconds or something like that. So, yes, it was 159 apiece in regular time. In overtime, they made 19. USA, helped by that 4 sundries from Mohammad Amir. Well, actually, I think it was 5, actually. One of the wides went for 2 additional runs, and I'm sure there'll be a conversation around the number of extras bowled at the death, but the very fact that the USA made the super over, 45 to get in the last 5 overs. They don't send out Corey Anderson. It looks like it's backfired terribly, but then they've still got Aaron Jones. He was the hero on Saturday night. He's again here. 2 4s and 2 6s, and they get just enough off Harris Ralph to get into that super over. I mean, try and sum up the emotion of what you've seen there, Cam, as the rain starts falling where I am at the World Trade Center. This could get interesting.
But the rain isn't falling here. I'm very aware of the UV index in Dallas at the moment. I'm cooking at the moment. It's the tail of the full toss. Basically, Aaron Jones, it looked like 9 and over all of a sudden was too much for the USA. And this kind of fairy tale of Friday where Jones played this out-of-character innings, where from being the kind of prodder and the pusher with a strike rate of 104, he was all of a sudden clearing the fences. Then just as they needed it, just as the USA needed it, he managed to get a couple of 6s away when Harris Ralph missed just full. And it looked like it wasn't going to be enough because it looked like it was going to be the perfect performance that just fell short. It looked like Pakistan were going to get away with one, that they played poorly. They'd been outplayed by the inferior opposition, but the fact of the matter was there wasn't that depth because Nitish Kumar was batting at number 5 rather than Corey Anderson and was having one of those days where it makes you feel a bit uncomfortable watching someone. The World Cup provides the opportunity for people to live out their dreams. It also provides the opportunity for people to live out their nightmares. And Nitish Kumar, with USA 3 wickets down, needing 8, 9 and over, was striking at 75. Thank goodness, for the sake of his life, that he managed to squeeze that full toss in that final over mid-off, because had it not been the case, it would have been a horrible, a real painful loss for the USA because they've done everything correct. They've done everything beautifully well. They've bowled perfectly. They've got ahead of the game in both innings. And then you kind of go down to the lottery of the super over. But whether you call it a lottery is kind of up for debate because one team executed, one didn't. The team that did execute their skills in that 6-ball super over, or many more balls than 6 balls, won.
Well, yeah, they went for Mohammad Amir, so they didn't go with Shaheen Shah Afridi, who I just instinctively thought would get the super over, but they went with Mohammad Amir, and he didn't just quite get it right outside the line of the off stump. There was a wide down the leg side as well, and look, that was noteworthy. I mean, I know there were some extras in the American super over as well. I'm going to struggle with his name here. Vetravalkar. Yeah, that one. 3rd time's a charm. Good work from you. You've been the one at the game, not me. 2 for 18 early on and bowled so well in regular time. But given the super over, bowling with pace off across the right-hander to Iftikhar. And, I mean, it does feel like halfway through that super over, they're going to get there. And then it's the catch down at long off, Cam. I mean, that moment when I went upstairs to Paul Rifle, the 3rd umpire, it looked out all day long. But the fact that Pistol kept looking at replay after replay after replay, there was that moment when you're like, this isn't going to be overturned, is it? What a great moment for the USA to execute that catch when they needed to, but went their way, and they still needed 13 from the last 3 balls, and look, that was that.
But, well, it was also the beautiful story arc for Nitish Kumar to take that important catch, for being in the depths of kind of potentially costing your team a game, to saving the super over, to taking the catch that effectively wins you the match, and it's a wonderful catch. And for those who haven't seen it, it's diving forward, really difficult, kind of scooping it up off the turf. And, well, no one would know this, but currently my job, and the reason I'm out here, is I'm actually working in the kind of broadcast box where all the directing's going on. And so I'm now hearing in my ear and seeing it play out when people are like, right, your third umpire going, right, can we have this angle, can we have that angle? And people are cutting around. And you're there kind of, I'm there as a fan/journalist going like, it's fucking out, it's out, like, give it and move on. But as you said, it was getting kind of increasingly nerve-wracking. And then, just as you thought the US were home, Netravalkan executes his Yorker. Shadab Khan goes for the kind of paddle sweep, but the genuine sweep as opposed to lapping. He gets down on one knee, studs into the pad. You think dot ball for all money? No, the ball runs away for four-leg byes, and somehow Pakistan lives to fight another day. Eventually, Netravalkan was able to kind of get out the over. They won. It's that bizarre kind of anti-climax at times when the last ball of the over is cut out very confidently for one or two, and you go, actually, that's perfect for the US team. But on Netravalkan, before we move on, I just want to say, so he still lists, his Twitter profile currently lists himself as principal member of technical staff at Oracle first, USA cricketer second. That's the order he lists these things in. I was the social media manager of the Washington Freedom team in the MLC last year, who he played for. He's a wonderful, wonderful human. I was so pleased for him to do well today. He took 6 for 9 against the San Francisco Unicorns, Pat Cummins' new team last year, including 2 wonderful bowl dismissals where he cleaned up Marcus Stoinis and Shadab Khan. I cannot recommend going to look at it and seeing kind of the spectacle of the swing he gets. He was always going to be someone in this tournament from an associate nation who came across your social media feeds because he has the potential to do the spectacular. And to keep talking, so I want to tell you one more anecdote about it, Adam. He's a very, very calm, very kind of relaxed character. He does his yoga, he eats healthy, he lives healthy. When he cleaned up Marcus Stoinis last year, and I think I can tell this story, he gave a massive animated celebration. He got the windmill out. He was kind of flinging his finger around, basically. And I remember asking him afterwards, like, where did that come from? Like, that's not you. That's kind of not like in your keeping. And he was like, the ball before, he cursed at me. He said, worse the effect of that, you're bowling quite slowly. And the following ball stumps all over the ground. Saurabh let him have it, and it was a wonderful moment. I'm so pleased that he is getting his deserved time in the sun.
A few moments later.
Great as always, Cam, having your insight on American cricket, having spent so much time out there and the passion that you have for it as well. We've had a little bit of a change of location. Your phone started frying up at the end of your soliloquy there. And my computer started getting rained on, so I'm in the tent. My backdrop's not quite so nice, but, you know, that's the way these things work sometimes. Right, so I think we should go back to the start of the game because it's easy to focus on the very end and the way that the Super Over played out, but the way that the USA, after sending Pakistani and got straight into their work, that amazing catch from Taylor at slip, moving away to his right, dragging it out. I mean, what a moment that is, picking up Rizwan in just a second over. Usman Khan holes out to Nitish Kumar. We've already mentioned him taking a good catch at the end of the game, one at the start as well, 14 for 2. Thakur Zaman is caught lapping off Ali Khan. Huge celebration there at 26 for 3. At the end of the power play, they're 40 for 3. And sure, after that, the old firm of Shadab Khan and Babar Azam put on 72, and they turned the fortunes of the innings. Shaheen Shah Afridi, some good hitting at the end to get them to 159. But just the way that the USA started the game, it always felt like the energy levels, at least, that they were on top in the contest. And kind of the WinViz measure followed suit on that as well with the way they started their chase.
It's so far, I'm going to sound quite sarky here and a bit kind of snobby potentially, but I always roll my eyes a little bit whenever we come into a World Cup and people go, "Car, you're not going to believe how good the fielding is of these associate teams." And then I spend 4 weeks watching people drop catches. And then today, Stephen Taylor's plucked an absolute stunner, and it's just set the tone for the match. It's a huge moment in the game, on a wicket in a competition where I know Pakistan got to 116, that's a perfectly respectable score. But if Babar and Mohammad Rizwan get in, you're looking at 180, you're looking at 190. There's no chance that the USA are chasing that. All of a sudden, there's this element of belief that kind of surges around the USA group that not only can we nick these guys off properly, we can also take the half chances that we need to potentially win this match. I think Babar Azam was on 9 of 23 towards the end of the first half of the innings. And it really looked like the innings just wasn't going anywhere. It was running out of time. You can often do those mental maths where you get to like 8 overs in, you go, well, actually, if they go at 12s from here, they're only still getting to about 180. It got to that point where Pakistan had to be perfect to get a respectable score. That's kind of what happened. Shadab Khan batted very well, got around 40 of 25 or 45 of 20. And they kind of looked like they might have been surging away from it. Then Kenjik, and I'm worried I'm pronouncing his name wrong, gets 2 and 2, a sharp catch from Natcher Valkrat, kind of short 45, and that game just kind of flips again. It just gets momentum coming back in the US's direction, which they then carry through into their innings.
Yeah, that's right. And look, the way they all made a contribution with the ball, I really admire the way that Jesse stuck to his task as well. I mean, he was smacked around in his first over for 20. There's a moment where Pakistan get their acts back together just before the halfway mark. I think they take 20 from the 10th over or something like that. Shadab Khan a couple of sixes in a row. That was off Jesse. Well, he comes back and ends up breaking that stand later on, gets Barber for 44. Big response after that over he bowled earlier. And it just meant they weren't ever going to really get away. It required one of the two of the set men to go all the way to the 20th over. It doesn't happen. Iftikhar makes a contribution of 18 from 14. But, yeah, when you get to the turn of the match, this is when I really admired the way that the USA went about their work. They weren't daunted by Shaheen Shah Afridi and co. A bit of a theme emerging in the podcast through the last few days has been the way the Dutch played a couple of days ago, and they controlled the most important moments of the game. Namibia against Oman, the way they got out of jail. Well, the same applies for Team USA. And, this isn't the dream team. This isn't the American basketball team or any other American sports team that has experience playing on the big stage all the time. This is a team that had played 4 T20 internationals like in the last 18 months or something like that. And that was in a bilateral series against Canada about 5 minutes ago. They're not always together. So all the more admirable the way they were able to start with Taylor, Monak Patel, a couple of those cover-driven fours in the first 2 overs, then 10 runs from Shaheen Shah Afridi's second over, back-to-back boundaries through the covers, a bad DRS referral, which showed that Pakistan were just snatching for it a little bit. And by the time you reach the end of the power play, you got Aussie Gus Hiddink out there smacking a couple of boundaries to get them to 44 for 1 after they were 30 for 3 at the same time or something like that, Pakistan. And, yeah, we saw House play such an important hand with Jones on opening night. Once he got going again, it actually felt like they were cruising to victory. It was almost surprising when Pakistan got back into it around over 14, over 15 or something like that.
I don't know if I agree with that. I always felt that if the USA were going to do it, they were going to cruise it, and it had to be those guys to take it on. I know you've got Corey Anderson at 6, but that depth of kind of a big game, as you said, experience just doesn't really exist, and all of a sudden 9s feels like 12s. But I think it's a really, really important point to make that this was a Corey Anderson-less victory. For all the kind of talk of that USA cricket, it's full of people. They're bringing in players from overseas to kind of pack up their kind of franchise league and kind of be a false national team. I think that's probably too snide a way of describing it, but that could be the criticism. This has vastly been off a team of players who, if they weren't born in the USA, they've spent a lot of their life here. They've spent a long time playing US cricket, and they've been the ones to kind of rise to the occasion and win the day. I think the moment that I went, oh wow, they're actually going to do this, was when Monak Patel got to his 50, and unless my mind is deceiving me, he's gone 4-6, and he hit Muhammad Amir straight for 6. And until that moment, I didn't know if the quality existed, and that's a very naive sentence from me to say, to kind of doubt the captain of a national team who's opened the batting in the World Cup. But I was kind of going, all right, he's having his day out. He's getting 30 against Pakistan. Well done, mate. And then I went, oh no, these guys are matching them kind of blow for blow out here, and Pakistan are going to have to do something to chase the game and change it. That's why those 2 wickets when House and Monak Patel did change the flavour of the match so much, because that did bring in that slightly more softer underbelly and kind of Nitish Kumar, who struggled towards the back end. But all's well that ends well, and they managed to sneak over the line. Well, they managed to sneak to the line, and then we got to the finish line, which was the super over.
Yeah, I mean, they had a long way to go to that line at 111 for 3 at the start of the 15th over. So that's when Monak Patel falls. He's the 3rd wicket. So Harris Rauf gets Gauss, knocks him over, bowls him. And 6 balls later, Muhammad Amir has Monak caught behind it. Look, I thought for all money, that's when Corey Anderson's going to walk out. They're going to back the experienced finisher, having played in a World Cup final before. We know the Corey Anderson story pretty well, but they back Nitish Kumar. But more to the point, we've barely mentioned Aaron Jones so far. I mean, he made that extraordinary 94 not out on opening night. He finishes with 36 from 26 here, but all the way through to the end, pumping his fists with every boundary, 2 6s, 2 4s. and just looking like at all stages he was in control. Even the balls that he was hitting to sweepers, he was hitting it hard, digging out of the block hole, racing back for twos. I mean, there were a couple of occasions where the running wasn't quite right, to be fair, but nevertheless, you could see there's a guy here with enormous self-belief, and he's being able to perform at the highest level at the perfect time. I mean, it's great seeing an athlete peak at the perfect moment, like an Olympian, for example, where they save their best performance for like the Olympic final. Well, this is the equivalent of that for Aaron Jones.
It's funny. It's so funny you say that. I don't know if you've been sneaking of some viewing of the kind of ICC montage packages, but that's what Aaron Jones says himself. He goes like, "I just wanted to peak the World Cup," and I don't know if I believe that. I think in my head I'm just like, does that just mean you weren't scoring runs before? And if you had been scoring runs, you're like, well, it's good to come in off the back of some runs. I cannot get my head round, and I love it. His fist bumping of boundaries. I don't know if it's something he's done beforehand. I knew, obviously, he was doing it on Friday, and I thought that was just the emotion of like the event kind of overtaking him. But it looks so out of place, but so wonderful. It's like when goalkeepers celebrate a kind of routine save and they give it the big into the striker, and you go, "God, I really like that. I haven't really seen that before." And then as soon as the fist bump came out, it was another moment where you were kind of getting on the USA train and going like, "They're going to do this. It's going to happen." And then they came and he padded up again for the super over, and that is the decision. It was actually an interesting combination that the USA sent out to bat. I know we're going to have to do Mohamed Amir's kind of disaster class, but the USA basically sent out one of their players as the hot hand, and they sent out the other one as kind of like the stats-based pick. So Aaron Jones is the hot hand. Until 4 days ago, he had a strike rate in T20 cricket of 104. You don't want that lad batting in your super over. But what he's done over the past 4 days means he absolutely has to go out there. The other guy, Singh, who came out, he hasn't batted. You kind of go, right, it's Corey Anderson going. In minor league cricket over here, he bats about 106 strikes from about 165. And then Nate, who's a cricket journalist over here in the US, I can't remember his surname, which is very bad of me, does a lot of work kind of the broadcast of cricket over here. He messaged me on Twitter and he was like, Singh was going brilliantly in the recent Bangladesh series. Was the difference. He got about 33 off 13 to kind of win one of those matches on the kind of a shit heap that no one else could score runs in. Last year for Seattle Orchids in the MLC, he was so important for them getting to the final. He struck and kind of pinch hitted up the order, and he basically is the six hitter that bats a bit lower down. And so that was the kind of the dynamic that the US went for when they approached their six balls.
And as we sort of progress to the Super Over, Cam, let's go to Mohamed Amir just for a sec before we round out our conversation and talking about what this means for Team USA. I just want to say, one thing about Mohamed Amir's Super Over. There's going to be people, because of his past, who are going to question his integrity. I've already had people on WhatsApp doing that in groups that I'm in. I just think that that's just wrong. This is a guy who's gone through a tremendous amount since 2010. With everybody knows what happened with Mohamed Amir. Everybody knows the roller coaster career and life that he's had so far, and the fact that he's back playing international cricket. I mean, you were there watching it up close, Cam, and you would have got a sense of the energy with him in the last over, in the Super Over. He was clearly devastated when those balls were being called wide, especially the last one, which was a bit of the 50-50 one. It's one of those that gets called sometimes, doesn't get called other times, didn't break his way. I mean, anyone that's going to question Mohamed Amir's integrity is getting this wrong. And I know it's done as kind of a piss-takey kind of thing, but I just wanted to say that and state that on the podcast today, that Mohamed Amir, getting back to where he's gotten to, is an important part of the Pakistan story since 2016. And the fact that he's back at the moment is a really good thing. And the fact that he was trusted with this Super Over, having bowled so well in regulations, a great thing as well. So, I just wanted to say that ahead of talking about, as you say, the calamitous Super Over that was.
I completely agree with everything you've said, and I also think you're a better man than me, because as the umpires were stretching his arms further and further, the mental image I got in my head, the internet meme I got, was the screenshot of him overstepping at Lords with the umpire stretching out in the gap between the front foot line and the foot, which I thought was quite funny. But I'm an ICC employee these days, so it didn't go anywhere near Twitter. And but it was, I think you made a very good point with one of the wides which didn't go his way, because then if you cut to the following over where Netravalka bowls, he gets one that does go his way very early in the over, and it just sets that tone. And it's a subjective call, because both go past the blue line. Both are kind of, if the batter stays still, both are obviously wide. But it's a case of how far has the batter moved. I messaged Hawker, I was like, go on, get the ball tracking up. Start some conspiracies. Send it, show us the same as wide as each other. But it just kept going, and both players, so both of the bowlers who bowled, were left arm over. They're trying to bowl that wide Yorker, trying to get batters to reach for the ball to try and have to kind of toe it over mid-wicket. And if you miss, you miss quite dramatically. And it just kind of kept happening. And it almost started feeling like a bit of a bad dream, because then there was the wide ball of the final ball of the over, which Rizwan doesn't take cleanly. And all of a sudden, USA run 2. And that means they've got 3. And all of a sudden, they've got 17 or 5. And you're like, that's actually loads. Like 14, you kind of think of these things in numbers of boundaries. You go like, well, if you get 14, that's 2 boundaries, really. And you'll get there, basically. 2 sixes and you win. As soon as you need 17, 18, I appreciate people can do their 6 times tables, but that's 3 sixes, or that's 2 sixes and 4, and you still might not win. And so it just had that in that moment. You went, they're cooked, it's over. The momentum is too far gone.
Yeah, Netravalka happy to stick with pace off as well. He bowled one ball that was pace on, which was a clear wide, and then went back to plan A, which I really admire. It can't be easy running in trying to bowl cutters, knowing the degree of difficulty is fundamentally higher and the risk of bowling a wide is higher as well. Cam, before we round out part 1, I just wanted to get your perspective on what this might mean for American cricket. I mean, I mentioned earlier on that you spent a couple of stints out there now. You were last year out there at the MLC and you followed the team very closely. What do you think a victory like this will do for an American side who are 1 win away now, potentially 1 win away from making it through to the Super 8s at home?
It's interesting. So I think Friday, the win against Canada was proof that cricket here works. And I think what people need to understand is I don't think this is a World Cup where they're trying to expand their fan base. And that's you can criticise that, but I think it's more a case where they're trying to harness what they already have. A perfect example of that is it's on Willow TV over here, which I think is a bit of an own goal, because Willow TV is a cricket specialist channel. So if you like cricket, it's amazing because you can tune in and watch any cricket that's going on in the world, but you do not have the possibility to accidentally discover it as you're scrolling through channels. So in that respect, do not expect this win or Canada win or USA getting to the Super 8s to all of a sudden break into the national consciousness of the States and see a surge in popularity. What I think you might get, and what I think you will get, is you'll get a greater buy-in from the existing communities and diasporas of the US who are interested in playing and wanting to play, because they see that the sport is succeeding in the USA. I think that is still a success story. I remember chatting to a USA player last year, and I said it was a bit cat-handed from me, actually. I said, do you think cricket will ever break into traditional America? We're down at like the Dallas Youth Leagues, basically. And he went, what do you mean by traditional? And I went, I think I meant white, basically. And he was like, mate, I don't think that's really where the success lies. It's not a case that you need a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Republican from Mississippi to be like, you know what, I want to put away the baseball bat. I don't want to play American football anymore. I want to play cricket. It's a case of America is the land of the immigrant, famously. And there are so many, the Nepalese community filled out this stadium 2 days ago. It was the most incredible thing you're ever likely to see. You're in the middle of Dallas and you've got 6,000 Nepalese people here watching the World Cup. That's amazing. And as of last year, there are some Nepali players who are starting to play in the local leagues. There are a couple of Nepali teams, but as of last year, it was still a case of we're trying to get that community into play. So I think that's where you're going to see the change. You're going to see the change in existing communities within the US who want to play more, as opposed to a case of people turning off the NBA and going, you know what, I want to watch the USA versus West Indies in the Super 8s.
All right, Cam, time for us to go to the Final Word Hall of Fame after the break. The Final Word Hall of Fame is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. While cricket is taking America by storm, Major League Baseball is coming to London this weekend, and some sort of bat and ball sport exchange program. Very good. And if you've been taken out to the ball game at QE2 Olympic Park, there's no better place to get your peanuts and Cracker Jacks than Westfield Stratford City. There we go. Get match day ready with a new hat from Lids. Enjoy the best of American dining at the Big Easy and Popeyes, or settle for some post-game pints at Bat and Ball, where you can relive all the dingers and curveballs from the day's play. Westfield Stratford City, we build it, you'll come. That's quite nice. So we're talking about cricket in America. Well, there'll be baseball in London this weekend, and you can do everything you need to do at Westfield Stratford City. Cam, I'm actually at Westfield. It doesn't look like it behind me right now. I'm at the live site. I'm at the live site here at the World Trade Center, and what we have here is this extraordinary Westfield. It's kind of an underground setup The story of my watching of this game was I came out here to watch at the live site, which was empty 2 days ago for England and Scotland. This day, it wasn't full, but there were plenty of people here. I met a young fella called Matthew from Utah who has flown across the country. He's a sophomore at university, and he's obsessed with cricket. He was running around with his American flag. He was giving it massive the whole way through. And we actually had some dropouts here on Willow TV at the crucial moment. The last ball of the 20th over, so the ball that was hit for 4 and got them through to the super over, we didn't actually watch live. We only got to watch it on replay because the feed dropped out. And Matthew was screaming to everyone following it on his phone through the Crick Info or Crick Buzz live feed. We're going to a super over. We're going to a super over, like Ian Smith all those years ago at Lord's. But that was just a wonderful way to take the whole thing in. And yeah, I think that, like, again, it wasn't. I wouldn't say that there were many people here who weren't existing cricket fans. There were a lot of people who were Pakistani fans who were in here watching it. But it was just a great way to take this in the middle of Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, knowing this was such a significant day for American cricket. Cam, over to you.
I'm worried. I've used my bullets, as it were, 'cause between Taylor's catch, Jones's fist bumps, and Kumar's diving catch, those are my 3 moments. And I'm going to plump for Kumar's catch because, as I said earlier, this was a day that he was potentially going to remember for the rest of his life for all the wrong reasons, and he's going to remember it for all the right ones in the end of it. And that's just the most wonderful, fantastic thing for a World Cup, for any person, but especially for someone performing the biggest match of their lives. I'm relieved, I'm pleased. And to plug myself, I have written evidence from last week that I backed USA to make the Super 8s because they were going to get 3 wins, and it's happening, which is remarkable. So basically what I'm saying is I'm my own Hall of Famer. I'm very impressed and proud of myself.
No, I did see that tweet from you this morning, identifying that it would be America doing something magical, so I hope that does some numbers for you, Cam. And in terms of what's ahead, I mean, now Pakistan, regardless of what happens in the group stage from them from here, they're probably going to have to beat India to get through to the second round. So even more riding on that game in New York over on Long Island on Sunday. And as for America, well, they almost get a free hit at India. And again, Daniel and I spoke about this at some length yesterday on the show. The conditions at the Eisenhower Park do suit a team that does have the ability to bowl well and slow and into the pitch and to tie the game up. And the way they did with Pakistan today, if they can play a similar brand of cricket against India, they'll be difficult to beat again.
Mate, if they win that toss, that's gold dust. That's what we all need. Monarch Patel in the presser afterwards, that was the first thing he said about, like, what happened today. He went, we won the toss. And then he started talking. And so they're thinking about it. They know it's that a thing. But yeah, I mean, realistically, India are going to cruise home by 6 to 8 wickets. But we can dare to dream because they do have the team. The situation is ripe for another upset.
Yeah, and they also get to play Ireland. Remember that. So given that Ireland have already lost to America, that group is now wide open. Cam, great having you on the show. You'll be with us at different points through the course of the World Cup. Safe travels to Florida is where you go next, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, off to Florida in 2 days' time. Looking forward to it. I think I'm joining up with the BBC crew a little bit there. Daniel Norcross will take me for a drink, hopefully.
Terrific. Enjoy yourself down there. This has been the Final Word Day 6. There'll be a second episode later today from Jeff and TBC. I'm not sure who Jeff's got with him for what proving to be quite an important game between Namibia and Scotland. And I'll be back tomorrow, back at the New York Stadium. Okay. Catch you tomorrow, Cam. An important day for American cricket. How well they have done. Something to celebrate. Bye for now.